Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. I've got rid of my accent and called be a better if HG is in charge. And now that I'll stop talking in the third person, I'll welcome you again. It's the Cheese Room podcast. We've got Dave O. Sydney. Hello, Dave.
Hello, good evening, good morning. It's Christmas Eve.
You set out for to go and try and jump down a few chimneys or what?
I will be looking to jump down a few chimneys later on. Absolutely.
Well, I hope she's worth it. All right. And from somewhere on the south coast, John. Good-looking John.
Hello, HG.
Hello.
You're cracking up.
Okay.
You're cracking up a bit in my ears. Is it Dave? Can you hear HG? Okay. Is it me or is it Dave? Or is it him?
He is cracking up a bit.
Okay. Check your connection, HG. Good evening and welcome. There's no caller. He's wrapping his presents apparently. No Shan. She's gone to the movies. Where's Brendan? Somewhere in Brazil making a cocktail or something. So we're stuck with HG.
Yeah, stuck being the operative word. I think what is it that Shan's gone to see? You called it Clifford the Big Gooner Dog, something like that.
That's exactly what she's gone to see.
I'm hoping she's gone to see it with some younger people. I don't know if she has, but we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. She has. Okay, good. All right, and good-looking John's even better-looking son, James, is also with us. James, say hello to all the people.
Hello. Debut. Hello.
Yeah, teenagers. They're always like that. James, it is good to have you on the show. As for you, John, as for you, Dave, I could go through the rather crude intro that Dave had for all of us. Something about emptying Santa's bulging sack. That's not really my type of thing. But let's get to it because Spurs played and we won. Isn't that amazing? We beat West Ham. No one likes West Ham. We're so happy they've been knocked out. So let's look over to the first question. And it's not even about West Ham. James, what do you think about your dad calling himself J-Dubs? Is this a thing?
Whoa. I get called J-Dubs doesn't mean I call myself J-Dubs.
That might be even worse. That might be worse. Why do people call you J-Dubs?
JW.
That's nothing to do with the Jehovah's then. Okay, fine.
No. Oh God, no.
Because people in my world, when they say J-Dubs, they mean the Jehovah's Witnesses. So yeah, John's a much better version. Okay, here we go. Tonight we will look back at our victory against our beloved fellow Londoners, West Spam. Cack our collective pants at the thought of playing Chelsea 3 times in January. Preview the Palace game and do transfer rumours too. Dave, that's a lot of things you want me to read out. Thank you so much, Dave. So let's go. West Ham, Davo, were you nervous before the game?
I was nervous, HG. I was nervous. This was a momentum game. Not just a momentous game, but a momentum game. If we'd have lost, we'd all be sat here tonight, this morning, really pissed off. But no, the prize is a semi-final of a domestic cup competition. The Happy Hammers were full of their usual nonsense when Antonio stuck his leg out at the London Stadium, paid for by the UK government. So it is important that we got a victory last night.
And how do you feel about being one step closer to the Europa Conference League next season?
Is that a question for J-Dubs or me?
No, that's for you, Davo. That's for you. We'll stick with you for
HG.
now.
That fishing rod is alive and well in Vienna tonight. It's good to see. As far as I'm concerned, if we win the League Cup, it means a lovely day out at Wembley. Obviously not for me, but a lovely day out at Wembley. Hugo gets to lift the cup in February. We do a lap of honour. Everyone's happy. Rather than going off to beating 8,000 obscure European teams I've never heard of to get into the Europa League next year, when what we should be trying to do is either get in the Europa League via a high league placing or the Champions League in 4th place. So, to my mind, get a cup done and lifted in February is all good.
Okay. That's a decent answer. I'll let you off.
Yes.
You talked about beating 8,000 obscures. Sadly, we couldn't even do that, which is why we're no longer in the competition. So you're expecting improvement next year at least. Oh, J Dubs. I know, I can't figure that. Good looking, John.
Can I just go back to Dave first? Dave, what time did you have to get up to watch the game?
Oh, no, it was easy. It was a 6:30 game. 6:30 in the morning. It's easy. I mean,
Okay.
I had a massive hangover. I was singing Oasis songs very loudly in a bar the night before for a change, but it was 6:30. It was an easy one, very easy.
And did you message us about a kebab shop being open at like 3:30 or something stupid like that?
I sent you. So you've still got to register whenever you enter premises. You've got to register it on your app. I sent you the kebab shop that I went to after singing Oasis songs, and then had the kebab and then fell asleep on this couch and woke up 1:30 in the morning. Rock and roll.
Yeah, middle-aged rock and roll, kebabs, and that's about it.
Yeah.
All right. Good looking, John. Okay. Your thoughts on the lineup? What did you think when you saw the starting 11 of Spurs last night?
I was a little bit worried when I looked at it, but then I thought, well, Conte needs to mix it up. He cannot play the same team every game. They had a tough game on Sunday, didn't they? And West Ham had a week to prepare. They had a week off because of COVID. I know they were missing Antonio, but I think he probably did the right thing overall. I was a bit concerned about the double pivot, your favourite thing, HG. I think he probably did the right thing as a starting point. Bergwijn was probably a question mark, to be fair. And Doherty at right back is obviously a big concern to all of us. But otherwise, I was happy Lloris was playing and not Galini, as we discussed on the WhatsApp. But yeah, I thought I looked at our team. I looked at West Ham's team. They did have Johnson playing, and I thought he was going to be out. And just to call out to Brendan, who didn't know Johnson was, did he, on the pod? I was listening. Very good pod. But Johnson is Ledley King's cousin. How the hell we missed out on this lad? HG's face just dropped then when I said that. How did we miss out? This guy is good, and he's going to be a top player. How on earth have we missed out on Ledley King's cousin? He's just I don't know. But yeah, I thought we still had enough to beat them. Oh, is he frozen? He has frozen.
He's frozen.
He has. Okay. James, what did you think of the starting lineup?
Yeah, I don't like the midfield two of Skip and Højbjerg. I especially against West Ham, who they played three in midfield. I always worry when we only have two in midfield because I don't think either of them are good enough passing wise. You're kind of stuck with the only way we can get the ball up the pitch is going long. So I really don't like the midfield two. Then again, who else do you really play? So you either sacrifice Bergwijn and go with three in midfield, or I don't know, who else can you play there really? No one. So I guess I was fine with it because there wasn't many other options.
I saw a number of West Ham fans claiming that we had our best team out because obviously, Højbjerg and Skip and Lucas have played most of our league games. Do we really think that is our best team that we saw against West Ham last night? Is that our best starting 11?
No.
No Son, no
Romero.
Emerson, Romero.
Okay, so it's three. Just for any West Ham fans who are not in prison right now, they're listening to this. What? No, not in prison yet. I mean, it could be both ways. But yeah, so it's true. Spurs' squad right now, barring a couple of world-class players, seems to be pretty much of a muchness. But I think we're rotating. This is what we want to see, isn't it? We made 4 or 5 changes from the side that won the last game. Oh, drew against Liverpool. Even I'm not cooler. They drew. So it's we're starting to get kind of a better level from everyone, which is I think is pretty good to see. James, apparently, according to the run sheet, West Ham dominated and had chances. Where did you think we were? I mean, do you agree with this? Do you think we were struggling?
I wouldn't say we were struggling. I mean, they had the majority of the ball, right? But that's always going to happen when you have 2 midfielders as opposed to 3, right? It just happens. I mean, obviously the plan was probably to just try not concede and get a goal. And I mean, I think by the time the second half came around, we were 2-1 up. And then the plan was just to sit back on the lead, which worked. So you can say they had chances, but how many of those chances in the second half were particularly clear-cut? So I wouldn't say they overly dominated, but yeah, I think again, it just comes down to playing with 2 in midfield. They're always going to have more of the ball if you have 2 midfielders.
Okay.
I mean, Dawson had that header in the first half that he should have scored from at the corner. So they had opportunities. I think West Ham are a pretty good team. I hate to say it, but I thought they are. He's done a great job with them boys. He really has.
So I'm just looking at the stats here. First half we had 56% possession. It was the second half that we only had 27, and that in a way.
Wait. We only had 27% possession in the second half.
According to Flash Score app that I'm just looking at, if that's correct.
Flash Score app.
You could say that's a bit of an Italian masterclass in many ways, even though they hit the bar late on. But Jay's right. Most of their shots were from distance, weren't they? Most of their real attempts. Yes, Dawson probably should have scored, and their corners caused us a few problems, but you sort of expect that with West Ham. But first half, we did all right.
Yeah, I feel like in the second half, once we made the substitutions, that there was a stat that came up and talked about, the amount of shots that both sides had and the amount of shots on target. And I think it was, 10 shots each and 4 shots on target each. And so although we were winning 2-1, the game was pretty even. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, when you thought, West Ham have had all the ball, they'd only had 1 extra shot on target in that entire time. Now, we know that they had the deflected effort towards the end that went off the bar. But, yeah, I think everyone's right. The idea that, yes, that we didn't have much possession, and I don't like seeing that ever. But, thankfully, West Ham didn't do too much with it, or they weren't allowed close enough to do that. So there's lots to take from last night's game, but it does feel as if we're still trying to figure out what the best formation is, what the best team will end up being. We've got players like Lo Celso that hasn't played any minutes yet because he's coming back from injury. Roden hasn't really played apart from, I think, at Mura. So there are a few players that could force their way into maybe what ends up being Antonio Conte's best 11. Dave, Hugo was our best player again. Was he our man of the match?
Hugo made some good saves, but I do remember you cynically saying that one of his saves was very Grobbler-like. Would you like to expand on that? Bruce Grobbler.
Yeah, so for anyone who's under 35, Bruce Grobbler was the goalkeeper for Liverpool in the 80s when they won everything. So when I was a kid, when Dave was a little bit older, John will obviously remember them too. And Grobbler had a sense of flair about him. Like there was any easy save was made to look more spectacular. The most famous thing was the penalty shootout of the European Cup one year. He started to wobble his legs, and you don't see kids do that anymore. Like I used to do that all the time. If I was a goalkeeper in a penalty, I'd pretend to be Grobbler. Anyway, he had the sense of the flair, and I think that the header that Souček had, I don't know when it was, maybe after we scored our first, it was definitely first half, and it looked like it was going to arch in, and Hugo did really well to tip it over the bar, but he went with this hand over when he could have just got there like that. I know he's left-handed. I mean, obviously it doesn't work here, but left-handed. It just felt a bit, no, why didn't you just catch it with your right hand like this or just tip it over like that? It reminded me of the old, 150-yard free kick from Gaza, as my Arsenal-supporting stepfather liked to remind me, from the 91 semi-final, where Seaman went for it with this hand and couldn't get there. So, yes, it was a great save, and yes, we're happy that it didn't go in, but it did appear to be a bit... It looked better than it was. Can I say that?
That's a bit. I think that's a bit cynical, HG, isn't it?
I think sometimes you have to go with the wrong hand because that hand's higher up. Even though you're leaning across, that hand can get higher than that hand. And that's why the keepers do it sometimes.
Yeah, obviously it's his dominant hand, and so that does make sense. Like I think in any case, if I'm going to try and catch anything, I'm going to use my dominant hand if I can. But yeah, I definitely.
This is going down a very slippery slope. That's all I'm saying. Dave's grinning.
Dominant hands, balls over the bar. Anyway,
it's a bit early for dominant hands chat.
I already said David Seaman. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Let's go to the next question.
Oh dear, Caller's gone. It's all smutty.
How ironic is that? Like, Caller's the smuttiest of us all, and yet here we are. Brilliant. J-Dub. Steven Bergwijn. What did you make of him? Obviously, he got an assist. He got a goal. Yeah, tell us what you think about Steven
The
Bergwijn.
first 15 minutes, he was terrible. He kept giving the ball away, kept losing it. And then he just slowly managed to... It was a bit of a scuffle near our box where he sort of managed to win the ball. And then we end up losing it again. And I think they got the free kick, which Bowen crossed in and Hugo had to punch away. But then he slowly got into it. And he got better and better. Obviously, the goal gave him huge confidence, and then the brilliant assist. Do you want me to talk about the goal, or we're coming on to that later?
Yeah, you just talk about Bergwijn. I mean, like it's just interesting that we saw in the Liverpool game that outcast number 1 Delhi comes in and plays really well when people start getting excited, and now Bergwijn has come in, in a game that's important, but maybe less so because it is just the entrance to the Conference League competition, as we like to call it here.
HG, we're getting top 4, so don't worry about it. It's all good.
Okay, all right, good. Top 4 is happening, but like, is there something more to this? Like, have Delhi and Bergwijn actually found some shooting boots, or is there something more to it?
Well, Delhi hasn't found his shooting boots, has he? Clearly, not yet. But I think that Conte is getting them all working much harder. Obviously, 115 Ks under Conte in the Premier League against 100 Ks average for Nuno, so 15% increase for the guy from Athletic, Jack, what's his name, who couldn't understand what the difference would be.
Jack Pitbrook.
Pitbrook
Yeah.
Levy. Jack
that's
Pitbrook
it.
Levy. Yeah.
Jack Pitbrook, that's it. The Man
Jack
City
Pitbrook
fan.
Levy, don't forget.
Okay. And but I can't remember where I was going. Oh yes, talk about the goal. I'm going to give you. So I'll go back to Bergwijn. Yes, confidence, big time. I think Conte knows how to manage these players clearly, and he's given them specific roles. He's got them miles fitter, clearly, got them working hard. The fact he went off after an hour, I think, was planned because he did that on Sunday. I think he took some players off after an hour, or at least one player. I think he was because they're all come back from COVID and they've had a lack of training, and he's been working them hard. I think it was always going to be a plan. He came off after an hour, but the goal was quite interesting because Skippy won the ball back in their half, and then there was a couple of patterns of play. Went up to Doherty a couple of times, came to Højbjerg, and Højbjerg played a nice little clipped, curled ball through, and Diop sold himself. He dived to try and clear the ball, missed it. And Bergwijn did exactly what Conte told us he was going to do a couple of weeks ago. He said he can play that number 9 role, held the ball up, laid it off beautifully to Højbjerg, who wasn't tracked by the West Ham midfielder. Which West Ham midfielder was that was fronting him up? Declan Rice, the person that everyone's saying was brilliant, which he was with the ball, but he switched off. So he's not the world's best player yet, although he is a good player. I will give you that. Obviously, Højbjerg squared it back. Nice little tap in with it looked like it was his left foot, not his right foot, didn't he? He had to sort of change his feet to poke it in the corner.
Honestly, to me, it looked like he just went with both feet.
I had to watch it a couple of times. It was his left foot, I think, at the end.
Yeah, like he went with his right and realized he wasn't going to get it, so just kind of swung his left foot around. It was one of my favorite goals of all time. Was a Man United goal. Weirdly, it was Paul Scholes in some Champions League game. And the cross came in and he went to smack it with his right foot on the volley, missed it completely, but it hit his left leg, his standing leg perfectly and went in the far corner. Like absolute genius, which he clearly didn't mean. I'm not sure Bergwijn meant for it to go where it did. There was a bit of fortune, but you're right. Before that part of the goal, the pass from Højbjerg, the movement involved, Bergwijn looks a decent option in the centre of the pitch because he wasn't wide very often, I didn't think, in the game last night. He played a lot of it in that kind of narrow 3 that we've seen first with Nuno, but now also with Conte.
What I noticed at times was that Lucas was dropping much deeper to pick the ball up while Bergwijn pushed up, and then occasionally they switched round so that Harry wasn't isolated. So there was often 2 of them up front, and we had one of them dropping in at times, and then times it was 3 of them. But I have to say, that was pretty much the only decent thing Højbjerg did all game, wasn't it, really? Because he had another shocker. Even Shan said he had a shocker.
Man, if Shan's turning, then things aren't good. Shan will defend her man until there is no man left. But that's not a good sign for Pierre. So Pierre, if you're watching, you need to think, mate, because you're losing some possible groupies. Anyway,
Just on Højbjerg. Sorry, just on Højbjerg for a minute. And this will be Caller's worst nightmare. But Winks' performances over the last couple of weeks when he's played, has been far more effective and better than Højbjerg. And if Conte wants, Conte's has this squad and everyone's in on merit, Højbjerg could find himself out of the team before long.
Yeah, and you say that it's interesting that James said it earlier, right? We went from the kind of a midfield two, you had a midfield two in the West Ham game last night, as opposed to the three we saw against Liverpool. Maybe Højbjerg in a two struggles. Maybe we've got a whole bunch of midfielders that don't really fit playing at a midfield two. Like, where's that partnership that we all want to see? The Dembele and Wanyama, or that's the only good partnership we've ever had in midfield, really, isn't it? I mean, certainly in the last 30 years. So I'm sure Dave can remember a couple more.
Well, Gaza and David Howes, for example. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how shit David Howes was. It's Gaza. End of. So there's one. I'll think of some more.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You
Whoa. You mean the Alan Nielsen David Howes dual axis wasn't brilliant? Is that what you're saying?
The Alan Nielsen David Howes axis makes Højbjerg and Skip look like Iniesta and Xavi.
Oh, Brendan's got it. Do you want to put that up, actually?
Yeah, I'll put it up. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Dozy Dazelle, David Howes.
What about Sedgley? Hang on. What about Sedgley and Samways? That was a duo.
Well, they played in the diamond, didn't they? So Sedgley played on the left, Samways played at the base of the diamond, Dazelle played the top, and Anderton, if fit, would play on the right.
That's right.
You've got a good memory. I would never. I mean, I had a season ticket then, and I wouldn't have remembered that.
That was the 93-94 season where we won at Oldham at the end of the season, and we had a good chance of going down. Happy days, the 90s. Moving on.
Okay, right. Moving on. So yeah, of course, the goal, everything looked good, and then James, what happened? What happened with their equaliser? What did we do wrong?
Right. Gave the ball away too easily. I don't really know what that pass was meant to be. Don't know who it was to. That, annoyed me quite a lot. Secondly, and I noticed this for quite a long time in the game, there was a huge bit of space between our midfield two and our back line. So much bloody space. And they could just pass right through it. I mean, it was just a terrible pass from Dyer. But, just sloppy, basically.
So we're blaming Eric on his way to world-class footballer of the year.
We're blaming that, and we're also blaming the fact that there was no player to cover it at all. Because if there was a player who was deeper in the midfield, they would have been able to stop it. Or they might have been able to. The problem is when the midfield and the defence looked way too disjointed, from my perspective at least. It's like you got the defence here and then the midfield way up here instead of like here somewhere.
Yeah, but I think that if someone plays such an awful ball out of defence like he did, I don't think it matters where your midfield is stationed, because he simply played it out of the box straight to their other player, and then after that we were on the back foot. So
in fairness to him, there weren't that many players in the midfield he could have passed to. I mean, I'm not defending the fact that it was a horrific ball which led to a goal, because it was, but it's not as if he had a ton of passing options. Where if there was another player in midfield, there would have been. So.
Yeah, true. But I mean, we have seen some Alderweireld-esque passing from Jeremy's brother over the last few weeks. So, I mean, as I've always said about him, he's always got a mistake in him. And the last few weeks he's played well. But we got reverted to type the other night.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those situations where you tell Hugo to not play it short, basically. You just tell him to kick it long, because if Hugo doesn't make a mistake, one of our centre-backs will make a mistake. So, passing. I don't trust any of our centre-backs to pass with the ball, and I don't trust Hugo to pass with the ball. So,
are you saying you don't trust Davinson Sanchez when he's on the ball? I can't believe
you'd think a guy who played at Ajax would be quite good on the ball, wouldn't you? But apparently not.
I think he might have only ever played the 1 year at Ajax too.
Yeah, it was only one season.
Yeah, they sold him on as quickly as they could.
For 40 million.
They sold him on, and they only reached the Champions League semi-final afterwards. Who'd have thought?
So what you're saying is, if we sell Davinson Sanchez, we could also make the Champions League semi-finals. Is that the logic here, Davo?
The barest minimum logic is, if we sell him, I'll be very happy. Let's just leave it at that.
Sorry, go on, James.
I remember I think it was at the Spurs Dortmund game years ago, and he said to me, John, that it was the first season Sanchez was at the club. You said to me, "Oh, we'll probably sell him in a few seasons to Barcelona for like 70 million." So when do you reckon we're selling him to Barcelona for 70 million?
We're not. To be fair, that's what everyone was saying. Barca wanted to sign him when we did. Supposedly, I think they pulled the wool over our eyes. They did well there.
Before we go on with the run sheet, is there any other predictions that your dad's made that I want to hear this? Carry on.
I'm going.
Oh, God, probably quite a lot. I can't remember that many of them. I remember that one. That's distinctively in my head for some reason.
So
I don't remember that.
My old man said, and I'm taking you back, he said that Ardiles and Villa won't last until Christmas. They'll be back in Argentina by Christmas 78. Couldn't have been any more wrong.
Can you just put Phil Ambrose's comment up, because the Sky commentators actually mentioned this.
Okay, this one here about the goal kicks. Yep.
So noticeable on Conte cam today that as soon as we scored the second goal, Conte's assistant immediately told Hugo not to play it short from goal kicks. The Sky commentators picked this up at the time and said about it, and after then, we didn't have issues. I don't know why they didn't do it when they scored. Rather, I know it was only a couple of minutes before we scored our second, but why did they wait? Seems a bit strange, but it's nice to see that in-game management happening, because it just hasn't happened, has it, for such a long time? We just continue to make the same mistakes under Nuno and even Jose at times, which was strange. So it's quite odd.
I think anyone, I mean, even Caller, at some point needs some guidance. I know he won't agree, but everyone needs a little bit of guidance about what to do in their job, in their world, in their life. Why would football players be any different? Obviously, Mourinho doesn't agree with it. Doesn't think it's necessary. Doesn't think he can teach them anything because they're already superstar footballers. But clearly, either we don't have superstar footballers, or they do respond well to a bit of coaching. And so it is great to see that. I mean, it's only been, 2 months? We're not even 2 months since Conte took over. And yet we're looking at our squad players thinking that they all look better than we dreamed possible. Is it just Conte? Is it the change of tactics? Who knows? But the fact is we're seeing it. And we're seeing the players that we thought we'd bought, that we thought that we'd seen before. And Conte has to take the lion's share of credit for that. However he's doing it is down to his influence that we are doing pretty well, winning games, and we're in the semi-finals of another competition. It is. I don't remember how many semi-finals have we been in recently. It's quite a number, really. Even if you take the Mourinho year, we got to the final last year. Pochettino got us to cup quarters, cup semi-finals pretty regularly, and so for a club that was known for being, the knockout specialists, the cup team, I feel like we're almost back there. We're extremely good at getting to the final stages of competitions. We just can't get that last step. Right. So
I think since we won the FA Cup in 1991, I think we've lost 7 FA Cup semi-finals in a row. Just to cheer you up. Happy Christmas.
I was just gonna say that's HG's fault, because he went to Leeds in '94, and we haven't won one since.
95. I went
95. Yeah. 94, 95. Yeah.
I went to Arsenal version 2 in '93. That was the first one. Then I went to '95. And I haven't been to one since. So I might have started the curse, but I can't be responsible for ones, can I?
I went to 2001 at Old Trafford. That was awful.
Yeah, so I'm taking so HG. I'm taking the load for you there as well. I was there 93, 95, and 2001, and I was at Cardiff 2002. So it's all my fault.
There you go. So it's nothing to do with the players or the manager. It is actually always down to the fans. We just need some younger fans that have only ever seen good times to show up and take Spurs to glory. Right,
James is still waiting. He's still waiting for that.
Yeah, that's true. It will happen. It will happen, James. I do believe.
I hope so.
I do believe.
I hope so.
So in the game, we are now at 1-1. Spurs West Ham. We're all feeling a bit down, aren't we? At 1-1, thinking, oh, here we go again. But we get a winner pretty quickly. James, what did you make of that winning goal?
Well, it was instant fight back, which is, I think, important because that shows the mentality is a lot better. Because I think if we'd played this game 3 months ago or 4 months ago, the team would have collapsed. They wouldn't have gone and got that goal at all. So I think that's immediately a good thing, that the players weren't down from conceding a silly goal. I mean, defending on their behalf was pretty terrible. But scores another big goal again, doesn't he? Scores another goal in a big game. He's very good at that. So
yeah, Lucas is the tap-in merchant against good teams, and the 30-yard rockets against bad teams,
and headers against Man City. I mean, it doesn't matter how you score. He scored the goal, right? Which, as we saw in the Liverpool game, we're very good at not scoring very good chances. So good. It was better play. I thought, Doherty and Bergwijn were good in the build-up there, and Lucas was there again. So it was pretty much a perfect goal, really, all things considered.
And what are your thoughts on it, Dave? Sorry to interrupt, Dave.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's great work from Bergwijn, and it was a tap in for Mora, and I mean, just on James's point, where he just said 3 or 4 months ago we wouldn't have come back from that. I don't think we'd even gone in the lead 3 or 4 months ago. We were so shit. So it was good. It silenced the away end who were singing. What were they singing? It's just like the Emirates or something like that. So it was good to silence them. Very, very crucial. And then obviously we went on to the tactical masterclass from our coach.
I just wanted to say, do you notice both goals were from basic pullbacks? Is this going to be a tactic we see more and more now? Because a number of times we just try and fizz it or chip it. It was very deliberately pulled back to an area, not necessarily to the player that was there, but to an area for a player to come onto both times.
Yeah, I don't think Bergwijn saw Lucas particularly. Maybe he did. Maybe Bergwijn took so many touches in such a short space of time that where do you have the presence of mind to look up? Maybe he is just playing it into an area, but that seems like I'm doing him a disservice too. Like it's one of the two, right? Like maybe professional footballers are good enough to take that many touches and still look up and find a teammate in a congested area. But it was nice because I sat on my couch watching the game, and when the goals went in, it was more it was part relief, part enjoyment, because I especially that third one, or the third goal of the game. I really thought that we were about to blow this again against West Ham, and so when that went in, 2 minutes after they equalised, the sense of relief was pretty big for me. Right, second half, we'll gloss over this maybe a little because we weren't as good, but good-looking John. What happened in the second half?
I think there was an element of not letting a goal in. Holding on to it. I don't know how. We didn't get much feedback from Steve because I think he was quite beveraged, wasn't he? So we didn't really fight. Normally he tells us Conte's furious, this, that, and the other. We didn't get much from him. And Conte there was only one appearance, wasn't there? I think that was the first goal. But I think he was trying to get him to push up, but they were struggling a little bit. Like James said, only having the 2 in midfield, we needed that third. But even when Winks came on, we just couldn't get hold of the ball. I was wondering if we should have maybe brought Ndombele on, because he likes to carry the ball, doesn't he? And there's got a little trick. But I'd understand why Conte didn't bring him on, because he hasn't got the discipline. But they just kept pushing. But like we said earlier, most of their chances came from outside the box. The only thing that really concerned me was you kept letting their wingers, who were inverted, cut inside. Although, ironically, it was Yarmolenko. It was a right-footed shot that deflected onto the bar, wasn't it? But they just kept letting them cut in, and I thought they were going to score from a curling cross at some point. But most of it was kept at arm's length.
No, I mean when Yarmolenko came on, I think he's a good player. Like clearly, mentally he's probably not the strongest, but I think he's a quality player. And when you saw Tanganga go over to play that left wing back, I was like, okay, well, left footer against the right footer, that could work for us. Because part of me thought Davis was going to go out there and be the wing back, and Tanganga was slotting at centre back. But yeah, it is weird. We allowed them into our box to maybe find half a yard to take those shots on. In fact, it didn't happen very often. We allowing teams the ball, like to me, 27% possession in any half isn't good enough. I don't care if we're playing Man City. We should be wanting to do more than that. I don't see us as a counter-attacking team. Like we may well be better in certain situations doing it, but the point you make about the midfielders we have, like Winks, Højbjerg, and Skip for 20 minutes in that second half, there's no threat there. So West Ham knew that they could hold on to the ball. They knew that they were going to have possession, and we didn't seem to want to change it around. I mean, I don't know when Delhi came on, but it was quite late in the game, and you just thought, well, maybe it would have been nice to carry a bit more threat going forward, just to give West Ham something more to worry about. Do you agree with that, Davo?
I do, but I think the point about the counter-attacking, and it is a point we're going to get onto the run sheet. We might as well do it now. But in the 73rd minute, Son had that chance, right, and he blew it because his first touch was shocking for it, and he missed. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but if we're going to be a counter-attacking team, we need, when the chances present itself, we've got to put them away. That's the whole point of the counter-attacking football, not just good defensively, but when those chances appear, you put them away. And too often in the past year or so, we haven't done that. Bergwijn up at Anfield, all the rest of it, and that that for me is the issue with your likes of Bergwijn and Mora. I know they both scored the other night. Is that they have got to get a lot better in front of goal when the chances appear for them, because they're not going to have them all the time. And ultimately, I think we would need to have an upgrade on them. So I don't have a problem with counter-attacking football as long as we're clinical at the other end when the chances present themselves.
Yeah, it definitely felt strange that when Son's clean through, as I said on the pod, I didn't expect the net to bulge, but I certainly expected a shot. And so when that didn't happen, you just thought, right, the whole team is not on it in the way they need to be. I mean, West Ham are not the easy game that we had maybe 5-10 years ago. They're a really good side, and without wanting to say Declan Rice is good, he was the best player on the pitch, and I think it was quite obvious that he was the best player on the pitch. So you don't want to give someone like that the possession to hurt you. Like if Declan Rice actually had a shot on him, you're looking at one of the best midfielders in the world. That's all he's missing, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I suppose looking back, we can say, look, we got through, which is great. That's what we wanted. We wanted to get through. We want to get the next game on and see if we can go further. And we've learned, hopefully, something from it. And I do think that Conte will look at that and learn something from it, because maybe under Nuno and Mourinho, we never thought anything was ever going to change. It was either working or not, but nothing was going to change from it. And I do think with Conte in charge, maybe we're going to see a bit more tinkering and a bit more trying to figure out what's going to work best. Right. So to all of you, right, quickest on the buzzer for this. Rice and Bowen are too good for West Ham. So where will they end up?
Can I take Bowen? I've said a few times on here that we should have signed Bowen instead of Bergwijn. So it's interesting they both were quite an effect on the game, influential, that's the word, on the game last night. Rice is going to only go probably to City or Chelsea, realistically. No one else is going to, maybe United. If they
United have got the bigger need for him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So they're one of those three, realistically. Bowen, I'm not sure who would take him. He's a good player. I'd take him right now. But I'm trying to think.
I think Liverpool might take him in terms of kind of, recycling that front three that they've had for a long time. Okay, they've got Jota there, which is a cracking signing, and I think there has been talk that Klopp is interested in Bowen. So I think he could go there. But apparently Bowen was offered to us to scout him and things like that, and we didn't follow up on it.
We were heavily linked with him for a long time. Yeah. Weren't we?
Yeah. So Steve, he didn't have an N in front of his name and played in League 1. So Steve Hitchin wasn't interested. Bowen.
There's a rap there or something, isn't it?
It is weird that these good up and coming championship players, right? Because that's what he was. Spurs. If you just said to me, we're going to spend 20 million on a guy that's never played in the Premier League or has played, a couple of substitute appearances for Hull, I might be a bit nervous considering, we don't have too much money to spend anyway. But, West Ham have done well. Ben Rama is another one. Never played in the Premier League, but they took him on, and he's not been their best player. He doesn't play that often, but I think he's a quality player. I think he's Premier League standard, and he's better than maybe a couple of the attacking midfielders that we've had in the last Eric Lamela time. So it would have been an improvement there, but it's interesting. Bowen he is too good for West Ham, but what clubs are better? Rice, to me, He's going to Chelsea.
Hmm.
Rice has to go to Chelsea. He's a Chelsea boy. He's a Chelsea fan. His best mate plays for Chelsea. I don't see him going anywhere else. So they don't need him. But
Yeah.
go on.
I can't see him at City.
Sorry, James. I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I can't see him at City. I don't think he'd suit Guardiola, so I can't see him at City. Because I don't actually think his passing range is that tremendous. I don't think he suits a system like that. He's a ball winner, right? He's not a sprayer of the ball. That's a great phrase. So yeah, maybe at Chelsea. Although really United probably need him more because they don't have a defensive midfielder who's any good. So I could certainly see him being in demand there because United have like 7 million attacking players and no defensive midfielders. So
you don't rate McFred, is what you're saying.
Well, I think McTominay's level is actually Hull. So I'm joking. I think he's
he'll go to Everton, won't he, McTominay? That's where
yeah,
United
probably.
midfielders go to die, is Everton.
I think he's probably like lower mid-table level. Like, I don't think he's a terrible player to have as a rotation option. But would I want him as my main defensive guy next to some guy who also doesn't do anything defensively? He's kind of like a worse Winks, isn't he? That's what I think he is. He's a worse Winks. Would you want to see Winks and Ndombele in a midfield 2 every week? That's the question. No. So, yeah.
I think just on the actually, just going back on a couple of the points that you raised. I mean, our ability to go out and buy the kind of lower league players and convert them into Premier League players, our record on it in the last few years, to the best of my knowledge and memory, has been shocking. The last one I can think of is Delhi. And I'm happy for anyone else to contradict me here in the chat. You look at the players that have come through from the Championship. Ollie Watkins, we wouldn't pay the money. Surprise, surprise. The other guy from Brentford, you just said Ben Rama, and Bowen as well. And, there is a premium on these players if they classify as homegrown. Your Delhi, I think, cost 5 million and we loaned him back, didn't we? And then, but your Watkins and things like that around the 20-25 million mark. And I think that's a reflection of what the market is today. So our ability to go out and buy players who are more, the acclimatization of playing in England is less so than obviously you get a foreign player in. And we're going to see this when we get this guy in, the guy we bought we've loaned back to Metz.
Sarr.
Sarr. So we've bought an 18-year-old. Everyone's raving about him and looking at YouTube clips and all the rest of it. But he's going to have to go through a period of acclimatization next year. And then compare that against getting your Bowens or your Watkins or things like that.
That's true. I mean, you hope that the finances are in place now that 20 million for Bowen we would do, and maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago we just thought no, it's not the right thing. I can't remember when he signed for West Ham, but he's been there a couple of seasons now.
He's about 2 or 3 years.
It was the same time Bergwijn signed. It was the same month.
Okay, so Pochettino had gone, so it was Mourinho time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like Bowen's been there longer, but I guess it's only a couple of years now. Like I don't know. Like Bowen is a decent player, there's no doubt about it. But I think I've said this on pods before. If you want to get players from the Championship, young players from the Championship, then you have to show them a way to the first team. And I think that because of the players that we had around, no names needed, those players didn't see that pathway. Like if I'm Chelsea and I'm thinking, right, Declan Rice will come in. He's not a youngster anymore. I'll let Jorginho go. Absolutely. He can go back to Italy. I'll have Declan Rice for the next 10 years, easily. But if you're looking at, someone like Jared Bowen, do I want to go and play for Spurs where, in theory, at that point, I'm behind Lamella and I'm behind a couple of others and Jack Clark's already signed, so he might come in. And whereas West Ham, we're a bit more needy and a bit more willing to maybe say, look, you're going to be part of not just the first team squad, but we're going to give you minutes. That there is something to be said for that. Spurs, weirdly enough, now everyone thought, well, we've got these players that we want to shift, and so we're going to be a better option for players coming in. Now we've got, Delhi's still only 25, turns 26, I think, in April. Bergwijn is 23, 24. We have those players already in house. We don't maybe right now need to be looking at Championship players to come in. Like Joe Rodon's barely played for us, and he's also 24 now. So sometimes it is about opportunity as well as the money, right? Like if I'm an agent of a Championship player who's on the cusp of a big move, like who is it? The striker at Blackburn right now, the guy who's half Chilean who plays for Chile.
Diaz.
Diaz.
Yeah.
So like
he was Brereton. He was at Forest, wasn't he? As young, didn't he score against Arsenal in the cup?
I think so.
As an 18-year-old, yeah.
And you look at him now. I think he's 6 months away from being on a free. He's a big centre forward. He's scoring goals in the Championship. Like, is now the time to take a punt? Well, maybe, but which club is going to do it, and which club would Brereton sign for if he wanted to leave in Jan? Is it going to be a club like Spurs? Maybe not. Maybe he'll want to continue playing. There's a lot more to it than just 2 years later on going, I wish we'd have signed him. Yeah, it's true, I wish, but maybe there are other reasons as to why we haven't.
Can you just bring up Sam's comment for us? And he's just done. I just want to comment on this one. I think Sam's got so other teams don't have a problem bedding players in, such as Tielemans, for instance. I think you've got slightly the wrong end of the stick here, Sam, because we're talking about Championship players. Tielemans signed for 45 million for Leicester. He's an established international, so you'd expect him to bed in fairly well. From what I've been told recently, Levy was willing to buy Tielemans and the deal was in place. Pochettino didn't want him. Yeah. So we could have had him, but we signed Ndombele and Lo Celso instead. So actually, in this instance, Dave can't blame Levy for once. I don't know how true the story is.
No, well, Tielemans was initially on loan. It was an initial loan deal. And, I also heard that, that Tielemans was offered to Tottenham and Poch didn't want him, right? But it's definitely Levy's fault.
He did hire Poch, so.
Yeah.
And then the next one, HG, I think I put Alan, our Geordie fan, just below. So how many players do we need to be top four? What do we reckon? Realistically, we've already said we need a centre-back, probably.
Yeah.
Although less so now.
Centre-forward.
And a creative midfielder.
Yes. See, I think we could do without a creative midfielder if we play 3-5-2. I think we have enough. Even if it is the Celso, Ndombele, Dele, even Bergwijn, weirdly enough, could be one of those central midfielders if you want it, because he definitely works hard and he's comfortable in the middle of the pitch. So I'm not sure. Creativity, yes, that we haven't had that assist maker, but we haven't played attacking football for a couple of years. So it's a weird one. But I definitely feel like a stronger centre back to partner Romero or to be the other side of the defence. And another striker, just in case. Like if our front four options are Kane, extra striker, Son, and then maybe Bergwijn, I'm all right with that, right? I don't mind those as being the front four. So it's as much as I think that I saw in the Athletic they talked about us getting another right wing back, maybe I guess to replace Doherty. That could be something that would really improve, So how we attack down that right-hand side, because Royal still, again, as said, he's still bedding in a little bit, but maybe we want to have something there. So what, 3 to 4, I guess, to have a real good run at it. We'll have a good run at the top 4 as it is, but that would be my estimation. What about you, James? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't like our midfield options. I think we need another midfielder. I think
what type? What sort of player?
You see, that is a very good question because it depends whether Conte really wants to play with 2 in midfield or will play with 3 in midfield. Because if playing with 2 in midfield, you need someone who is creative and can do defensive work. Whereas if we're going to play a 3-5-2 with 3 midfielders, then you can have a midfielder who's just there solely for the creative role. They don't need to be obviously they're still going to have to work hard under Conte, but they don't have to be as defensively minded. So that really comes down to what system Conte wants to play, right? But basically, we need someone who's going to be a bit more creative. Basically, that's my view. I don't really like Lo Celso very much. I think he's more of a box-to-box player, in my view. That's what I see him. I see him as a slightly better Winks, but then Winks has been better recently.
Gov,
Yeah,
the wonderful
basically.
Gov, dog water. Yeah, like he's been injured. You say that about Lo
True.
Celso, he has been injured, and it's weird. We talked about Bergwijn last night. Like Bergwijn's touches, as someone said early on, they weren't great, but he managed to get himself into the game and get himself involved. And Lo Celso, his last few appearances haven't been great. There's no doubt about that. But I do think there's a player there, and like part of me wants to think. And we talked about that 4-3-3. He does really well for Argentina. If we do play three in midfield, and we ask Lo Celso to get up front when he can, but to be an 8 that attacks, right? You can have in that midfield 3. To me, you can have 3 number 8s, really, or at least 2 number 8s, and then a number 6 to really sit and hold it. But those 2 8s, if they go forward and have creativity, I mean, we saw it from Ndombele. Ndombele wasn't comfortable playing there against Liverpool. He didn't like that defensive side of the game. But when you got him the ball 35 yards from goal, he can produce. And so I don't know, it is about finding the system. But for me, for the next 6 months, I think there's enough creativity around. We've just got to find a way to harness it better. Any more comments, boys?
There's quite a few comments coming through, I'm seeing. I mean, Keith said that Lo Celso was a star in La Liga. I think that was more of as a number 10, though, wasn't it? From my understanding. I didn't see him play, but that's the feedback.
That was a different role.
Yeah, and then there's a few comments about Brian Hill.
Yeah, this
Somebody
one
said
here.
he could be creative midfielder. Keith said that. I think from what we've seen, he's definitely a flying winger to me. I'm not sure. I know that Nuno thought he was a creative mid, maybe a number 10, but then
Yeah, but no one cares what Nuno thinks.
Nuno wasn't great, was he? So, but I do have a news flash. Big news from the cheese room. Shan has said Clifford the Big Red Dog was brilliant. So that's
There you go.
That's our cinema review.
Is Mr. Tumble in it?
Just wait till you hear our review of Mrs. Brown's Boys. That'll be on the next show. None of us are watching that, right? Is it true that we all hate Mrs. Brown's Boys?
It is terrible. It is literally terrible. Who watches it? Prime time on BBC One.
I've never seen a full episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys.
No, me either. We had a hard. Obviously, we chat a lot during the day in our little WhatsApp group, and we talk about anything and everything. And when Mrs. Brown's Boys came up, unanimously, we all hated it. We all think it is gold. We can't agree on anything, right? We don't agree on anything, but we all agree that Mrs. Brown's Boys is the only reason that exists to watch ITV. That's how bad it is.
Isn't it BBC?
Yeah, it's on BBC. That's why it's a reason to watch ITV.
Oh, okay, right.
I mean, isn't the case even Caller hates Mrs. Brown's Boys, and he thinks Coldplay is alternative rock.
God, what's that opinion? That is dreadful. Oof.
Okay, right. So moving on, we've beaten West Ham. We've got Chelsea in the semi-finals. It's still 2 games, I think, but it might go to 1. We don't know. What's going to happen? Good-looking John. What's going to happen?
Well, Spurs have announced the tickets for both home and away legs. And as I said the other day, if they were going to make a decision to go to one leg, they surely had to do it before the draw was done. Because that would be a bit of an unfair advantage in a way. You can't change it once the draw's done. So I think we're going to play both legs. It's going to be a very, very tough game. James and I went to the semi-final at Wembley, where Kane got the penalty. That was he offside? Was he not offside? And was it Sarri got out his laptop, didn't he, at the press conference afterwards and showed that he was offside? And then the away leg, when they just done away with the away goals rule, and obviously Llorente made it 2-1, and then we ended up losing on penalties.
Yeah.
I think we can beat them. Whether we can beat them 3 times in a month, I don't think so. But I definitely think we'll win at least 1. I think it'll be win 1, draw 1, lose 1. I don't know which way round that will go. But I think Conte will be so up for this. We've definitely. I think we cannot afford to lose more than by 1 goal in the away leg, because obviously we know that Tuchel is a masterclass at keeping a clean sheet.
But when's the World Club Championships?
Well, are they in it? I guess they
No,
are.
no, the world. Yeah, they are. They are in the world.
Oh.
So that's one aspect.
Let me Google.
And then the other one is: have they got any players going to the African Cup of Nations?
The goalkeeper must be one of them. I think Mendy.
What about Ziyech? Did he go?
No, I
Ziyech.
saw today that Ziyech hasn't been picked, which is rather convenient. Because surely he's got to be one of Morocco's best players.
Dave,
Yeah, 'cause-
February, the World Cup was it 3rd to the 12th.
Okay, and then someone said on the WhatsApp group that they've got City
And
around
Liverpool.
that time. Yeah, okay, well that's good.
Either side
That's
of
good.
the
So
Second
they have what, Liverpool, us, City, us in 4 games.
Yeah, something like that.
Screenshotted it.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
we do also have Arsenal in that set of games.
So I'll read it out to you. So Chelsea have got Liverpool on the 2nd, and then us on the 4th, apparently.
Oh,
No,
And
that
then-
would be moved.
so I get- That'll be the 5th, and then they play Chesterfield, then they play us, then they play City 3 days after playing us. We've got Watford, which might get, because Watford's game's been called off because of COVID, isn't it? On Boxing Day, so that might get called off. You never know. Then we've got Chelsea. Then we've got Morecambe, which hopefully, as long as the stone's open, James and I are going to on his birthday. Then we've got Chelsea. Then we've got Arsenal. So he can rest the whole team pretty much in between the 2 Chelsea games.
Against Morecambe.
Yeah.
So Sanchez will play against Morecambe.
If that means that Romero is fully fit, then yes, I am happy for that to happen.
Didn't Conte say last week he's in training? He should be about 3 weeks away. So you're probably looking. I was thinking he'll be ready for the Arsenal game, so he might play one of those games against Chelsea.
What are the odds he'll get sent off after 10 minutes against Arsenal?
I just saw earlier. I just saw on YouTube earlier. Sergio Ramos got sent off for PSG. He came on at half time. In the 81st minute, he got booked. In the 85th minute, he got booked again. In only his second appearance for PSG. Thought that was quite impressive.
Well worth the money.
It does make you wonder: is he off to Brazil with Neymar for Carnival, or is that his plan to get sent off? It's my sister's birthday / Carnival, and I'm going off with Neymar. Yeah, who knows?
Well, that's what the players used to do, wasn't it? They used to get accidentally booked for a 5th time just before Christmas, didn't they? And then, I've got to have Christmas off.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, really, is it? Like, if I'm going to throw a sickie at work, it's going to be on a Friday or a Monday. I don't do this, obviously. But if I was going to do that, then the smart thing would be to extend your weekend any way you could. I don't know, but extend your holiday period. All right.
Aubameyang doesn't even bother with getting booked. He just doesn't turn up.
He's mastered it. 350 grand a week for nothing. Wow. Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
like
usually
Ozil passed him the
scouts are
baton.
lethal,
Ozil passed him the baton of do fuck all, didn't he?
Yeah. What a shame.
All right, let's move on from the Carabao, okay? Because we've done an hour already. Let's talk about Palace. What are our thoughts, James? What are your thoughts on the Palace game this weekend?
we should win. That's my thoughts.
That's
If
the
we don't
tactical
win, I'll
analysis
be
done.
pissed off.
Move on.
Yeah.
Well, I don't watch a lot of Crystal Palace because I don't support Crystal Palace. So, yeah, I only really watch Spurs games. So, I don't
Hold
know.
on. You're starting to sound like Caller now. Careful.
Look, I watch Spurs games and I watch Wales games, okay?
Fair enough.
I'm not-
Yeah.
If there's another game on, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to sit and watch, like, fucking West Ham, Watford, like, not Crystal Palace, Watford, like, let's tactically analyse this. Like,
No
no,
one's going to watch that.
no one wants to watch that. No one does.
HG would. He's Stato.
I'd be tempted. I'd certainly check the score and see how this game was going on. Yeah, I don't know. I do tend to watch far too much football, but I don't have a
I
life.
only play Football Manager, so I have that side of yeah.
That would be me. That would be me.
My
Maybe I should be
notebook
on
is a
that.
Football Manager one.
You definitely.
notes.
You should get Caller involved. Caller loves a good brand to kind of become a what's the word I'm looking for, to be part of a group. He wants to be part of a group, this Caller. So Football Manager for Caller, if you're watching.
He is watching. He's commenting.
Hey,
Oh, he is. He's smiling away. Oh, Caller, we miss you. I don't know what you're doing, but you're probably drunk.
He's finished wrapping his presents.
Yeah. Transparent wrapping so everyone can see what he's got, people. Anyway, right, fine. I didn't say that. So look, it should be a good game against Palace. So they're a decent side who obviously thrashed us under Nuno. Davo, what do you think is going to happen against Palace?
I think he'll have to rotate, obviously, because he's got Southampton 2 days later. So I think that we got momentum, we got confidence about us. I think Vieira's done a good job. I mean, Gallagher's been an actor's like the best loan signing. Is that Slash impersonation? As Gallagher's been an inspired loan signing. He's been very good, and in my fantasy team, well, I'm currently top of the Cheese Room Fantasy League. Just saying. And he's
Don't mention it, Dave.
No, I don't do much, do I? You were top, but you're not anymore.
Do you know why? I was top, and I didn't even realise I was top until you told me. I started tinkering, and now I've dropped. So I'm just going to leave it alone now.
The old Fergie psych out never fails me again. So you've obviously got the usual suspects, Zaha, who every time we talk about pilots, we talk about the fact that no one's ever gone in for him for 40 million quid. And he's probably going to be stuck there forever, like Matt Letizia at Southampton. Eze, is he back yet? Because he's been injured for about 5 years. So the other thing you talk about Palace is Zaha's the only threat, and then Eze came last year and he looked good. Conor Gallagher's good. And he's got them playing all right because I think Vieira didn't do such a great job was he at Nice? And there were doubts about him. And he's come in, he's done all right because it could have all gone a bit Frank de Boer. But it hasn't. So, I think
that sounds like Cockney rhyming slang now. It's all gone a bit Frank de Boer.
It's all gone a bit Frank de Boer and his brother. What was the name of his brother? Edwin van der Boer. No, who was it?
Ronald de Boer.
Ronald. There we go. Bit Ronald and Frank. Anyway, so at the end of the day, they're a threat. We can't take them lightly. But this is the game where we need something a little bit different in the middle of the park. I won't be happy to see Højbjerg and Skip as the double pivot against Palace because the challenge will be breaking them down. And that's why we need to get another midfield player in the window.
All right. So who do you want to see then, Davo? If it's not Højbjerg and Skip in midfield, what would you pick?
Well, we haven't. But the problem is that you'd pick. Okay, Skip's been the player of the season so far. Not hard, but he has been, and he's been fantastic. And you've noticed in the last few weeks he's done a bit more. He's added a bit more to his passing range as well, which is great. Yeah. I hate to say it. You'd even think about having Winks next to him. Lo Celso, I think he's got to go. Ndombele. Well, he wants the team built around him. That's not going to happen, and we don't trust him to play as part of the two. So I would go with Winks and I would go with Skip, but we're going to have to keep an eye on it for Southampton in terms of how we're going to play it then, because it's only 2 days later.
So what? Save Højbjerg to go back to Southampton, his old team.
Yes,
where he might be a bit more motivated and
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So you do expect two in midfield then, Davo?
Yeah, I'd do that, and I'd have a think about which. I would not be starting Kane for one of the two games. I think you said it on the pod the other day, in reviewing the West Ham game. But I think you really can't have Kane playing these two games. So I would think about. I think to Nick, what you had to say was that I'd think about starting Son up top against Palace because they've got less mobile centre backs. I'm just copying everything you're saying here, HG. And I'd have Kane against Southampton, but hopefully he doesn't do his hammy like he did a couple of years ago there.
Yeah, the good memory of Harry Kane at Southampton was him making Virgil van Dijk look a fool, and the bad one is pulling that hamstring. Can I? I've never said this publicly, but I'm going to say it now. Virgil van Dijk is completely overrated. As good as he is not as good as everyone thinks he is. He basically just gets to watch everyone else play, and then when on the random thing he's called into action, he's got the size and speed to get there. But put him in a team that struggles, I don't think he'll look as good. I don't think he is as good as people think. There we go. James.
I've seen Liverpool fans try to compare him to Maldini, which I think is just incredibly stupid. So there you go.
What?
Obviously overrated.
What I would say is the effect he has had on that Liverpool team made him worth £75 million because he's taken them up a massive level.
Great.
His experience, yes, in that game we won 2-0. Dele scored and Kane scored. He made him look like a mug, but generally he has been top draw. But it's also about the players that are around you, doesn't it? If you've got rubbish players around you, and the Southampton players were rubbish, but they were level down, you're never going to look as good. And he's gone to Liverpool, and he was pretty much the final piece of that jigsaw along with Alisson.
Yeah, I think Alisson's been more important. It just feels like, you look at Jan and Toby at Spurs, like best partnership I can remember Spurs having in my life. Really, I'm not old enough to really remember Richard Gough, but Jan and Toby. But the high press, they were basically just watching for a lot of the game. They had one or two things to do because we were dominating the ball and other teams weren't getting the chance to really attack us. A little bit of that with Van Dijk at Liverpool. I do think there's a little bit. As much, he's 6'5" and he's super fast and he's super athletic, and so he is a good defender. I just think that the system makes him look better than maybe he actually is. Because, like, as much as he looked decent at Southampton, I don't feel like he looked amazing at Southampton. And I don't think any of us really thought he was worth the money that Liverpool ended up paying for him. It's just Liverpool didn't care because they had the money anyway. So it's interesting. Like, Van Dijk is obviously a really good defender. I just don't kind of like Brendan Rodgers. He's not as good as people think. He's just not
Your
as good
favourite, Brendan.
So let's just recap. We've had an hour and 8 minutes. So Hugo Lloris is too flashy when he makes his saves. Cut that out.
One save.
Hang on.
Flashy.
Van Dijk is overrated. And what difference does he make to Liverpool? We all remember when we spanked Liverpool 4-1 and they went out and bought him, and that doesn't happen anymore. And what was the last one? Brendan Rodgers is over.
Haven't we got worse as well?
Yeah, I'm not talking about us. So I'm suiting my narrative. And finally, Brendan Rodgers is overrated.
He
That's
said that for
three.
years, though. Dave, he said that for years, to be fair. He's always hated Brendan.
Yeah, he has.
No, wait, I don't hate Brendan. I just think he's overrated. I always have done. He goes to clubs where the work has already been done. He smiles for a bit, and as soon as he's been there long enough to buy his own players, it falls apart. That is Brendan Rodgers' career, frankly. Even at Celtic when he won stuff, who was he up against? Nobody.
Rangers were bankrupt. They were shot down.
So I just think, like, Brendan Rodgers will leave Leicester before the end of this season. I fully believe that. I just don't know where he's going to go because I look around in Europe. I don't think he's going to stay in England. I think he'll go somewhere else. But he'll look for a club.
Alan Thompson's asked a good question for you.
Go on, down here. We're at Alan Thompson.
Oh, question.
I don't think he's okay. It's a serious injury. Hell of a player. Would I have him at Spurs? How old is he? Van Dijk?
28.
27, 28.
No, he's older than that. I think.
Football Manager will tell us.
I mean, like,
James.
yes.
Virgil van Dijk.
30.
30.
Oh, blimey, I didn't like that.
There you go. Look, yes, of course I would have him because he's a really good defender. I just don't think he's as good as everybody says. I really don't. He doesn't have anything to do half the time. Like, when Liverpool play well, Van Dijk just kind of sits at the back, right? Now, obviously, when Van Dijk wasn't around last season and Liverpool started losing games, then you could sit there and say, well, maybe that's because Van Dijk wasn't around. But I don't believe that. Van Dijk is perfect. It's like the opposite of Davinson Sanchez, right? Davinson Sanchez is great. Davinson Sanchez is great at standing on the edge of his 18-yard box and heading the ball away. Ask him to do anything else and he'll struggle. Van Dijk is great.
That 50p head is not great at heading the ball away.
But he's comfortable doing that. That's what he would rather be doing, right?
Yeah, okay.
And Virgil van Dijk looks better when he has less to do. If you put him under, which people haven't been able to do because it's Liverpool and they're really, really good, then I don't think Van Dijk is as good as people say. I realise I'm probably going to get pelters for it. I'm not saying he's bad. He's just not as good as.
You're not getting pelters in the comments, HG.
Am I not?
Can I just ask you? Can I just ask you to put the Gov comment that's just above Alan's up, so we can go back to the Palace game?
Yeah, sure.
The whole point. I'm not sure he'll play the same team, but I think he'll play the same formation. I think we will go 5-3-2 because Palace play 4-3-3. The difference will be their fullbacks won't be flying forward the way Liverpool's will. But I do think we'll see probably Son and Kane, and I think Kane I would prefer Kane to get rested at Southampton, where Southampton will be pushing. Southampton like to press, don't they? I think they'll push their centre backs up, and then I think Son and say Lucas or Bergwijn will have more luck trying to push through the lines at Southampton. So I'd rather have Kane playing against Palace, where they will be deeper. But I think 5-3-2, whether Conte plays it, I don't know. But I think he should play 5-3-2 against Palace on Boxing Day.
I agree.
So maybe we, if we're going to try and find a pattern, if the team we're playing is playing 4 at the back, we might go 3-5-2, right? And if they're playing 3 at the back, then we might go the 3-4-3 option that we've seen.
But did he know? He didn't know Moyes was going to play 3 at the back, did he? Moyes went to match us up, didn't he, last night? I think
so. Yeah.
Because West Ham have been playing 4 a lot of the time, but they're comfortable playing 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just it is interesting because I mean I've nailed my colours. I want to see 5 in midfield, but yeah, it's nice to have options. Like I feel like just a couple of months ago we all knew what the side was going to be. We were all desperately worried that we were going to end up losing 2 or 3-0, and yet here we are. Nothing's really changed personnel wise, if anything. But suddenly we're looking around thinking we've got options in the squad, and just by making 1 or 2 changes. That is pretty good. Right, so predictions for the Palace game. Let's start. Go youngest to oldest. James, let's start with you.
I think we'll win 2-0.
Any idea on the goal scorers? You don't care?
Be nice if Kane scored, wouldn't it? Be nice if Ali scored. Probably Son. Although, to be fair, I noticed he has looked a bit leggy lately. He looked tired. So maybe he'll get a rest. I'm going to say Moore and Kane. There you go.
Okay. All right. Next up would be me. What did I say on the pod last night? I don't remember. I think I wanted to say 2-0, but then didn't. So let's go with 2-1. Because it's Spurs. Clean sheets don't happen. Not really. Next up is John. Good-looking John. You are older than me. Off you go.
I'm going to go 2-1, I think. I think it might be a bit tight affair, this one. Palace are much improved under Vieira, especially going forward. Who's going to score? I hope Kane might get a goal. And we seem to be sharing the goals around. So maybe Skip will get his first goal, hopefully.
Okay. Brendan will know since he hosted the pod. I did say 1-0 because it's Palace. We beat Palace 1-0. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Son scores. Normally, Sonny scores 1-0.
Yeah. So, Son scores against Palace. That seems to happen. I think Kane does pretty well against them too. But, yeah, as long as we win, it doesn't matter. Davo, what do you think?
2-0, Ben Davis and Kane.
Ben Davis is due a goal. When was his last one for Spurs? Does anyone remember? Has he scored for Spurs?
Yeah.
He has scored.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed about our centre-backs at the West Ham game, I wrote down a piece of paper. It's called preparation. That our centre-backs are getting forward.
Sanchez kept going forward. Doherty just wouldn't pass in the ball. And I don't really blame him. But yeah, he just kept flying forward, didn't he? And we've seen Davis do it quite a lot, but hadn't seen Sanchez do it. But clearly there was a plan for Sanchez to move forward more. Obviously, when Romero is playing, I'd prefer that.
He scored against Stoke in the Carabao Cup. That was the last time he scored.
Oh, that was a good goal. Yeah.
It was a very good goal. Oh.
Yeah, I remember him scoring against Everton in that 3-0 win. Do you remember when Harry scored from a cross? It went straight over. It was his first goal of the season. It was really early on the season.
Yeah.
And then, but he scored 4 or 5 goals, I think, for us.
Yeah,
he scored 3 goals in the league.
He'll get one on Boxing Day. Mark my words.
Here we go. It's Ben Davies' time. Put your money on Ben Davies, says Davo, for the opening goal of the game.
Put a lump on it, as Kieran Trippier would say.
He's got 5 goals for us total.
Did he WhatsApp you, Dave?
He did. Yeah, we're very close like that, me and Kieran.
All right, so look, moving on to other things. We saw Klopp complaining. Of course, Klopp complains, but we saw him complaining.
Really? Never.
I know. We saw him complaining that it's outrageous that these professional footballers are being asked to play twice in 3 days. It's not every club, but there are, Spurs are one of them. They're being asked to play the 26th and the 28th. And what happens the next day? I'm expecting one of you to tell me. You don't know? Liverpool had their Boxing Day match cancelled or postponed because of COVID. So they don't have to play 2 games in 3 days anymore. And I saw lots of conspiracy stuff about, comes out and says that he doesn't want to play twice in 3 days, and the very next day he gets his wish. But is too much being made of this? Do you think that it's too much to ask from professional footballers to play 2 games in 3 days, John?
I think, we've seen it. Like we talked about Kane getting injured last year, or 2 years ago, New Year's Day, wasn't it, at Southampton? They do play too many games over the Christmas period. I think the trouble Liverpool are going to have is if they stay in the Champions League, they're going to have that fixture pile up. It's the silver lining to going out the Conference League is we're going to have some free midweeks that we can play these games. But Liverpool, they're going to have this backlog at some point, especially if they go all right I can't remember who they got in the FA Cup in the 3rd round, but if they go a fair way in the FA Cup, they're going to have a big fixture congestion. I see Kerry's commented saying Rangnick was also moaning. It's obviously the German chaps don't like coming over here. I've seen lots of comments on Twitter saying, well, they can bugger off back to a country that doesn't have a winter break. It does have a winter break. But it is what it is in this country. But we do play too many games. They need to drop. What they can do is play 1 game a day. It can be televised and but drop around in somewhere else. They must be able to do that.
What are your thoughts, James, on this?
Yeah, I think we play too many games. I think the problem is comparatively to Germany, correct me if I'm wrong, this is football manager knowledge, they only have 1 cup in Germany. They have the Pokal. They don't have the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. So we have 2 cups, right? Which I think is a bit... So you potentially play in 4 competitions, right? That is a lot of fixtures in comparison to being in 2 or 3. We can't really have a winter break because if we did, then we'd have to play those games at other points in the season. So
I think there are things that English football could probably do to make things a bit easier. I think the idea of 3rd round, 4th round replays, they got rid of replays in every other round, right? Is it the 5th round doesn't have them anymore? So just get rid of that. I understand that it gives those lower league teams a chance of maybe getting a replay date at a big club or whatever, but that would be one thing. At least it would help the big clubs out more than the little ones. I think, weirdly enough, for this week, right, Boxing Day is a Sunday, right? So the game is on Boxing Day because it's Boxing Day. But I know why they're playing on Tuesday, because Tuesday is also a holiday in the UK, right? Because, Christmas Day and Boxing Day are the weekend, so that means Monday and Tuesday are holidays. So they're playing it because people can go to the game. I get that, but they've moved some for TV to Wednesday, and of course then it's Wednesday night, where it's a normal work day for a lot of people. Why aren't we just playing Sunday, Monday, Saturday, like any other week? We didn't have to the Tuesday. We just chose to because of bank holiday football. It just seemed a really crazy thing to do when, we could go 26, 29 and then play on New Year's Day and it's done. And then they can't really argue. Because playing every 3 days, we do that most of the season. But to play twice in 3 days so that people can go to the game, I don't know what might happen. If they do close the stadiums, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But if they did, then it would feel even worse, right? But if that's the reason, I would have preferred, sitting here abroad, never going to games, I would have preferred that we just played Sunday, everyone on Boxing Day, and then everybody played Wednesday night, and we just had a full round of matches then. You could move one to Thursday if you needed to, because then they can play the following Sunday. But I just felt like asking some teams, and it is not all, it's not all of them, just some of them, to play 26 and 28, it doesn't need to happen. Even with all the games that we play with 2 cup competitions, it never really needed to happen. Okay. Any thoughts on that?
The FA Cup 3rd and 4th rounds replays have been scrapped this season, just to clarify.
Yeah, but that was because of all the postponements we've had, right? It's not a long-term thing. But I don't know. I quite like in Spain, right? In Spain, if there are, if you're from separate divisions, then the lower team is always at home. So if Spurs drew Morecambe like we did, well, Morecambe would automatically be the home team because they're the lower division club. It wouldn't matter who came out first. You just pick 2. And if the two are in the same league, then it sticks with the order they come out with. That could make things a bit more interesting. I'm not sure I want to do Morecambe on a Sunday in January, but it would make it interesting because we all think that Morecambe sharp to N17 will win comfortably with our second team, with our 1.5 team. It's that might be something else to make things a bit more interesting. Okay, we've talked about Pep apparently came out and said that players would strike because of this, and Jordan Henderson saying that players' welfare is not being taken seriously. Do we agree with that, Dave?
No, I think it's wider than this issue of just the week, the Christmas New Year week, and the number of games. I think that generally speaking, you look at the footballing calendar now. There's far too much football being played. Okay, so there's talk about the World Cup being every 2 years. You've got the Euros. There's talk about this Euro Nations thing that we talked about the other week. The South Americans might join. You've got the World Cup Championships. It's just too much. And, I know that people are going, well, they get paid a lot of money, the strength and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. I think they're playing too many games. And frankly, from my perspective, I don't get to watch a huge amount of games with time zone differences. My priority is try and watch as many Spurs games as possible with the time zone. But other than that, I'm not really interested in the Euro. We talked about this the other night. I'm not that interested in the Euro nations. I'm certainly not even that. If the South Americans join it, I don't really care about that either. So I think generally, if you look at the footballing calendar, you look at the Qatar World Cup, November, December next year, I think it's too much football. And then you are going to get players who are going to get serious issues, serious injury issues. So the whole thing needs to be looked at. But it's all about self-interest and the money.
Okay. Well, I think that's been done now, hasn't it? We know how we feel on this particular subject. Dave has... Move on. Right. So...
the judge's gavel has been hit.
There's a word you don't often hear anymore. Gavel. There we go. The judge's gavel has been hit. Brilliant. Transfer time. We're only 8 days away from dreaming that we might do something. Is it? Yeah, 8. No, 7 for you because you live on an island. I'm the only one who doesn't live on an island here. Yeah. Special. Okay.
That's what we're going to get.
Yeah. I live close to an island, but I don't live on one. Anyway, oh no, wait, I do. Oh, I do live on an island. It's a long story. Anyway, fine. Transfer. According to Davo's run sheet, Daily Telegraph article. In their short time together, Conte and Levy have struck up a good relationship. The 52-year-old has made himself at home in his new surroundings and is happy with the attitude shown by his squad. But the first test of that bond with Levy will come in the January transfer window. The Athletic say that the right wing back and forward are the priorities. Are we okay with that? I felt like I was reading like a blankety blank question where you had to fill in the blank.
Checkbook and pen.
Yeah, checkbook and pen. Right, fine. Kieran Trippier, would we want him back?
Well, we always, we've done the Poch, Ericsson, Bale bucket, so that's sorted. So the next one is Kieran Trippier. But I think the point about the Telegraph article I was trying to make but didn't in the run sheet is that everything's going tickety-boo at the moment. He's getting performances out of players who we don't regard to be, a few of them we don't regard to be very good, let's be honest, okay? But the reality is that Levy and ENIC have got themselves the best coach that they've ever had in their time at the club. Poch came from Southampton. We thought he was another AVB. He came with a certain reputation, but we didn't think he'd turn out how he did. Harry Redknapp was an accident because we were going down. Martin Jol was an accident because he was there when Santini there. So ENIC have got themselves a coach who is probably at the peak of his powers, right? If they do not back him and he decides, no, thank you very much, and he doesn't extend beyond his 18 months, where does that leave us? Okay, so we have to back him. I don't buy into the fact that Conte needs 150 to 200 mil. I think if you make shrewd acquisitions that he wants, working with Paratici, then off we go. But the barest minimum of this January transfer window, and I want to see him in January 1, not January 31, considering how many games we got, is a striker. So we can't wait to get Kane to get injured and then all the prices get driven up even more. And I would live with, I think the barest minimum is a striker and a different kind of midfield player. And then anyone else that we can ship on, like your Joe Rodons and your Sanchez's and whoever else, as long as we get someone in to replace them, because we've got a lot of games coming up, that's how I would approach the window.
Okay. Any thoughts on that, James?
Still want a midfielder in, but probably won't happen in January. So,
Is there anyone on Football Manager that you would recommend for us, James? Because I suspect you might know more about the up-and-coming wonder kids of world football, certainly than Caller does. So let us know. What have you learned so far playing the new game?
well, you see, funnily enough, because the first save I did on Football Manager is always a Spurs save,
Yes, that's right.
and I managed to sign Arthur from Juventus for 30 million, and he's been superb for me. So maybe we need to go look at him. Not that would ever happen in real life, but plays in Italy, so maybe Paratici.
I'm not just saying this because you've brought his name up, but I'm pretty certain I read a report that we might be interested in him.
We've been linked with him. We have been
There you
linked with
go.
him. But that's because anybody at Juve we're going to get linked with, aren't we? Because of Paratici.
Paratici
aside,
signed them
though-
once before. Sorry, go on, James.
Joking aside, though, he actually does suit the kind of player I'd want at Spurs. He's a more creative midfielder who can actually pass the ball, which is nice. That makes a change. We haven't got anyone who can do that, really. So
How old is he?
he's quite young. He's only like 23, 24, because Barcelona signed him, and then
Yeah.
they sold him to Juve for silly money. But then he's not really working out.
Wasn't
So,
that to do with the dodgy deal that's been investigated, isn't it?
loads of dodgy deals? So
This is the one
Dodgy
that
deals?
Paratici-
No, these are all alleged dodgy deals. We should make that clear.
okay, allegedly.
You know, I'd rather go with James and his work on Football Manager than Steve Hitchin any day of the week. So
Well,
let's get
it's-
James.
I mean, look,
Arthur's
don't-
25.
25. But still, like, you could get 5 good seasons out of a player like that, couldn't you? Plus, he's not particularly, he's not a physical midfielder. He's a passing midfielder. They can go on forever and ever. So
The only problem, James, is that I don't know whether you changed this, but if you've bought him on Football Manager, what was the scout Steve Hitchin who recommended him to you?
oh no, I sacked him straight away. As soon as I take over at Spurs, I sack him straight away. I bring in someone better.
Sean Curran's nailed it in the comments there, I think, HG.
All right.
Centre back, creative midfielder. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I think
I agree.
Yeah, I think striker should be first in the list.
That would
yeah,
be, that
I
would
think
be
he's got
some
it.
player, wouldn't that? If you had one person who could do all those jobs,
Gary Mabbott.
that would be such.
Gary Mabbott did.
Hey,
Paul Warhurst, he did it for Sheffield Wednesday, didn't he?
Chris Sutton.
Dion Dublin played. Yeah, Dion Dublin played at the centre back, didn't he, for a while? Ian
Yeah.
Marshall for Oldham.
We haven't had one for 20 years, is what you're saying. What has happened to all those centre backs turn centre forwards or centre forwards turn centre backs? Why don't we see them anymore?
Gary
Because-
Doherty, allegedly.
True,
Oh.
Gary Doherty. Like, is that Joe Rodon's future? Could he be the next Harry Kane?
One thing that always drives me mad is that you don't see centre backs chucked up at the end of a game anymore, do you? When you're trying to get a goal, why does the centre back not go up?
You see
It used
goalkeepers.
to happen. You do no, but that's like literally the 96th minute, isn't it? You used to get it in like the 90th minute. Chuck the centre back up, midfielder sit centre back and pass it, but it doesn't really happen anymore. It used to happen all the time.
I think people have cottoned on to David Moyes' routine, which is just buy a midfielder who's like 6'5", and then just lump it to him the entire game anyway. And you don't need a plan B because plan A is your plan B.
Gov's called it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Good
right.
spot. He's not doing well at PSV though, is he, Vinicius? I don't think.
He could be a left-footed CB for us, and striker on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
true.
he was doing well at Pier. Someone that came on and said he was doing well there, so he's not now.
I turned on. I watched a bit of their Europa League game, and they lost 2-0. Then he came on a sub and didn't do much. Mind you, PSV did get someone sent off quite quickly.
So you watched the Europa League game, not involving Tottenham.
It
Did
was-
you not have
it was
did
on,
you not have anything else to do?
It was just the highlights on BT Sport package. That's what I was just
Right,
on
okay.
the YouTube.
I mean,
I
to
think
be
I was
fair,
watching something else. It just rolled into it, and I didn't turn it off.
What, Emmerdale Farm?
It's not even called Farm anymore, but no. That's how long you've been gone.
I'm so behind the times of Emmerdale. I do apologise.
So yeah, so it is weird because like we all get our hopes up for these windows. We did sign a few players in the summer. Let's be fair. You know, we haven't seen the best of many of them, but we did sign a few. We do owe an awful lot of money on transfer fees that we've signed these players and we haven't paid them off yet. So let's just hope it's not a Debenham store card that's been used for it. But it is weird. Like, where are we going to get these players in? I see people talking about loans being more common in the next window because everyone's a bit uncertain of what's going to happen.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Brendan wants to send us a quick Christmas quiz question. Trying to say that's quite hard.
Is that the quiz question? Yes, is the answer. There you go. Thanks, Brendan.
A quick Christmas quiz question from Quiz McGurty.
Go on, Brendan. Send it through, son. I think, Gov makes a point. He says, I just really want business to be done ASAP in January. That would be nice for once, wouldn't it? If we get at least one player in for the beginning. The only player I ever remember signing early, actually before January began, years ago I worked at a nightclub in Crawley and I was just in between my day shift. I worked at a nightclub in Crawley. 3 years I was there for.
I'm just wondering what the link is here, but carry on.
I'm telling you, I'm placing the whole story. And I'd done my day shift and I was just filling up some petrol, got back in the car, and the news came on the radio. Big news, Spurs had signed Michael Brown.
There you go.
And that was I think it was Christmas Eve or Boxing Day. I remember because I had to go back and work the evening and it was crap.
I reckon we signed him early January 2004.
We signed. It was announced in the December. We hadn't actually gone into January, and then he made his debut against
in the cup, probably.
He played. I think he made his debut against City in the cup when we got the draw up there, and then we brought him back to our place, and that's the famous 4-3.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The idea of signing people in January it's not going to happen. Let's just say right now it is probably not going to happen. Just so we don't get our hopes up. Just so we're not watching that awful Scottish guy on Sky Sports News on January the 31st as he tells us everything we've heard 20 times before in the previous hour.
Hasn't he left Sky, Jim White?
I live in Austria. Give me a break. I don't know.
He's left.
What is he doing now?
He does TalkSport. He's done TalkSport for a while, but yeah. Anyway, Brendan's put the question up in the comments.
Andy Sinton was one of them.
Was it Sinton and Fox? Maybe? Do you think?
Yeah, Phil Ambrose got it. I think it's Sinton. I think it's Sinton and Fox.
Yeah, because Anderton would have been injured because obviously Tottenham's scanner didn't actually work, so he kept having scans on his hernia issues. And everything's fine. After about 6 months, it transpired that Tottenham's CAT scanner worked, but it didn't actually work at all. And he had to go and get private medical treatment.
Yeah, well, that was February '96. That was the Euro '96 season. So he played about 6 games in total, and then went on to play every game in the Euros.
Well, he went to see Dave Butler, who was our old physio, who went to England with Venables, and he got him fit for the Euros. We went to see him on the side without Spurs knowing.
Yeah, so Alan Sugar not spending money on the infrastructure to support our playing staff correctly. Sounds familiar. Move on.
All right. Well, look. As Caller is wont to say, we have been going for 90 minutes in injury time, 93 minutes now. There are 81 people watching. I've not said this once tonight because I didn't want to be like Caller. Please give us a like. I'm begging right now. You've lasted this long. Give us a like. Subscribe if you haven't. Do those things that you can do to support us because, we love doing this for you and we do it for you. I like speaking. Everyone knows that. But all of us, we get up. I do like speaking. We do these things. It's 11:30 at night here in Vienna. We do these for you regularly. We'll be doing more over the Christmas period. We've got podcasts galore coming out. I imagine Sunday night will be the next one with Franco and the gang who do those pods. They'll get that out there and they'll give you something to listen to. You can tell your wife or your partner, whatever it is. No, it's really the cheese room that's in that, in that earphone. Listen to what we're doing. There are lots of games, lots of things to cover about. We enjoy it. So thanks for watching tonight. John, James, David, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to ask James, out of the three of us, who do you consider to be the biggest old fart out of the three of us?
That one down there.
Yeah, I'd have to say that you probably, Dave.
Good. James, I just want to say you've been far more articulate than your father has ever been on this show, and we hope to see you again.
We need more football manager knowledge, that's for sure. When it comes to transfer stuff, you are going to know more than we do. So bring that football manager knowledge onto the YouTube. John, anything else?
Yeah. I just want to say it's been a crazy year. Thanks for inviting me into the cheese room world, guys. Since my debut on Transfer Deadline Day, thanks to Shan for inviting me and the caller and everyone for getting me in here. I've absolutely enjoyed it. Merry Christmas to everyone. Hope you have a great weekend. Obviously, my plans got changed. I know Davo's plans have been changed. I was supposed to be in Guernsey by now, but due to my 12-year-old daughter, James's sister, getting COVID, we're now stuck here in Bognor. Bless her. Hopefully, we don't all get COVID. But hopefully, everything is fine. We have lots of winning and good football from Tottenham. And Merry Christmas. And see you on the 27th.
27th. Our next one,
that's Monday, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
This is the time of year you lose which day of the week it is, don't you? You have no idea. But we're back on Monday night is the plan.
Exactly. So pod Sunday night, video on YouTube Monday night. We love your comments. We do it for you. Thanks for watching. And thanks for watching. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs!
You sound like Brian Blessed then. Come on, you Spurs, and Merry Christmas.
God's alive!
Come on, you Spurs.